Civil Rights and Liberty documentary project.
Historians Summer Tingle, Liza Duarte, Kaden Roberts, Emma Anderson, and Holly Kaysen have studied the history of Latino rights over the course of the last 7 days. Their extensive knowledge, gained over rigorous nights, has produced great findings regarding major events in Latino history. These events are being shared with you here today.
In 1910, Mexican Revolution forced Mexicans to cross the border into the United States, resulted ultimately in the end of a 30-year dictatorship in Mexico and the establishment of a constitutional republic. In 1917, U.S. Congress passed the Jones Act, granting citizenship to Puerto Ricans under U.S. military rule since the end of the Spanish-American War. It increased their migration to the mainland in this period as well.
The Immigration Act of 1921 restricted entry of Southern and Eastern Europeans. This restricted the number of immigrants admitted from any country annually to 3% of the number of residents from that country living in the United States as of the 1910 census. In 1927 in Los Angeles, the Confederación de Uniones Obreras Mexicanas, or the Federation of Mexican Workers Union, CUOM, became the first large-scale effort to organize and consolidate Mexican workers.
On February 17, 1929, the League of United Latin American Citizens was created. It is the largest and oldest Hispanic membership organization created. The League of United Latin American Citizens provided resources and tools for ensuring equity in schools for Latin American students. In 1932, Benjamin Nathan Cardozo became the first Latino named to the U.S. Supreme Court. He was an American lawyer who had just served on the New York Court of Appeals as the Chief Justice from 1914 to 1932.
In 1945 was the Mendez versus Westminster case. This is where schools in California were segregated by race, specifically Mexican Americans and Mexicans. This was the first case to rule in favor of desegregation. The children of the Mendez family were denied enrollment into Westminster Main School, an all-white school. They were told they must attend the Hoover School, located in another school district and consisted of all Mexican or Mexican-American students. Mendez filed a class action suit against the school district, claiming that the segregation in the school system was violating the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause.
In 1954 was the Hernandez versus Texas Supreme Court case. Pete Hernandez was convicted for murder by an all-white jury in Jackson County, Texas. A Mexican-American had not served on the jury in over 25 years, and Hernandez filed a lawsuit claiming that Mexicans were being discriminated against as a special class. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals ruled that they were not a special class and were one with the white race and separate from the black race. It ruled that the 14th Amendment did not protect them as a special class. In an unanimous opinion delivered by Chief Justice Earl Warren, the Supreme Court ruled that the 14th Amendment does protect the Mexican Americans as a special class and that they are guaranteed equality. It is clarified that the 14th Amendment does not prevent discrimination from a two-class theory. It covers Mexican ancestry as well.
In 1971, there was a Supreme Court case with Corpus Christi ISD versus Narrows. The purpose of this case was to recognize Mexican Americans as a minority group that was frequently discriminated against. It expanded the U.S. Supreme Court's Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas decision in 1954 to Mexican Americans. It ruled segregation and discrimination to Mexican Americans unconstitutional, and Mexican American parents filed a lawsuit against the Corpus Christi Independent School District, arguing that the school district segregated Mexican Americans. One way they segregated Mexican Americans was by busing them outside of where they lived and renovating instead of building new schools for Black/Mexican American neighborhoods. This placed Hispanic/Black teachers into segregated schools, causing a lack of majority to minority ratio in their busing systems. This case forced Corpus Christi to rebuild a school system, satisfying the constitutional requirements of ending segregation.
In 1974, the case Law v. Nichols, the U.S. Supreme Court reaffirms the 1970 memorandum, ruling students' access to or participation in an educational program cannot be denied because of their inability to speak or understand English. Californian school system was integrated and 2,856 students of Chinese ancestry was absorbed into the school system. They were not proficient in English, yet their classes were exclusively taught only in English. A class action suit against the school district was brought by students ruling the 14th Amendment and Civil Rights Act of 1964 was broken.
What are the current issues facing this demographic group today? In 2016, in a one-sentence ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court announces it is equally divided in a case involving a lower court's decision to block President Barack Obama's 2014 executive immigration order, deferred action for parents of Americans and lawful permanent residents, DAPA, granting deportation relief to 4 million plus undocumented people living in the U.S., providing they pay taxes, pass background checks, and reside in the country for more than 5 years.
In 2017, the Trump administration terminated DACA. The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, is a United States immigration policy that allows some individuals with unlawful presence in the United States after being brought to the country as children to receive a renewable 2-year period of deferred action from deportation and become eligible for an employment authorization document work permit in the U.S.
2020 to 2024 National Hispanic Leadership Agenda, working towards unity among Latinos across the U.S. and provide Hispanic communities with greater visibility and stronger influence in political affairs, primarily working towards enhancing economic security and empowerment, improving working conditions, and enhancing financial access and protection of consumers.
This concludes the brief summary of the history of Latino American rights in the U.S.
Hey, I have a question. Please, can you answer some questions for Latino rights? Please, answer, please. Can you please answer a couple questions for me regarding Latino rights?